Good morning. Welcome to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin this meeting at 9:01. If you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Reverend Jeff Woods with First Christian Church of Turlock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, as our County Board of Supervisors convenes this morning, I'm aware that more than anyone, you know what it takes to lead our county. You know the human, organizational, social, financial, health, and safety needs that we have. You know the information, insight, and wisdom needed for our supervisors and county officials to effectively address and provide for these needs. And you know the impact of each decision they will make this morning. Therefore, I ask that you would guide and give them wisdom, because you promise to provide it to anyone who asks for it. This morning, I also thank you for those of Italian-American descent who were recognized this month, and for all that they have contributed to the well-being, thriving, and advancement of our wider community. May you continue to bless, encourage, and use them for the greater good of all of us. For I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. All right, CEO Hayes does have an announcement before we proceed.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Just a quick announcement to let you know that Supervisor Graywall is unable to be at this morning's board meeting due to an unforeseen conflict. We do expect him to be joining us at our next meeting. Thank you.
And then next, we'll be moving on to presentations where we proclaim Italian Heritage Month in Stanislaus County for October 2023. I'll welcome Melanie Parker-Gomes. Melanie, good morning. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning, Supervisors and Chairman Condit. We are so excited to be here this morning to celebrate the Italian-American heritage. Just a little background, that back in the early 1800s, over 300,000 Italian immigrants came here to the United States, and that was a beginning of our legacy to become a new nation here in the United States. By the late 1800s, there was over 600,000 Italian immigrants that had migrated here to the United States. In 1905, the Sons and Daughters of Italy was formed, and from there, there has been great contributions of Italians here, former Italians such as Joe DiMaggio, Frank Sinatra. There have been many Italians that have made an impact on the United States. In 1925, the Sons and Daughters of Italy, the Modesto Lodge 2021, was formed in 1925, and we have, 1952, and we have been here ever since. We contribute a lot to the community, not only by our culture, but also by the families that have helped contribute to this community, such as the Shabaka Olive Oil Company, the Latari Farms. We have many members in our organization that have contributed, and the heritage here in Modesto is very strong, and it continues to grow. And we just look forward to celebrating our heritage and being part of this great community. Over the years, our lodge has contributed scholarships to seniors. We have given to local charities, and we are members of the Chamber of Commerce. So we're growing, and we're committed to this community, and we're just very proud to be here today to represent the Italians, Americans of the United States. Thank you.
Melanie, and I'm going to welcome my colleague Vito up as well to help with this presentation since he's a fellow Italian.
Yes.
My grandfather, James Felice, would be very disappointed in me if I did not present this proclamation, so it's an honor to do so.
Thank you.
And a fun fact about District 5 is actually the last 4 out of 5 supervisors, including myself, is actually of Italian heritage. Condit, Caruso, DiMartini, and of course, Canella. So that's kind of an interesting fact about District 5. So October 2023 is Italian American Heritage and Cultural Month. We recognize the rich heritage of Americans of Italian descent and celebrate their immeasurable contributions to our nation, state, and country. For much of the 20th century, Italians were the largest immigrant group in the United States. Today, they are the 6th largest ethnic group in America, numbering 26 million people. Bound by enduring values of faith and family, Italian Americans have flourished in all areas of our public and economic life while preserving their proud Italian traditions. Upon arrival in the United States, the Italian American community faced racial, social, and religious discrimination. Yet Italian Americans have persevered with hope and hard work to reach for the American dream and help build our great country. Italian Americans have also defended the liberty and integrity of the United States of America since the Revolutionary War. Italian Americans were among the earliest and largest groups to settle in California, and they have played a dominant role in the creation of Stanislaus County's agriculture, food processing, olive oil production, and of course our wine industries. Daily contributions are made by individual Italian Americans, such as teachers, doctors, nurses, farmers, police officers, firefighters, bus drivers, attorneys, and our local government, me and Vito. Italian Americans are represented in every occupation. Italian Americans support our community with organizations such as Orders, Sons, Daughters of the Italian in America, and Central Valley Sons of Italy Foundation, who work hard to preserve our traditions and family values. This is harder than it looks. They support our local charities and provide college scholarships each year to our local high school students, and they believe in working together as a community so everyone can benefit. So let it be resolved that the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Italian American Heritage Month here in Stanislaus County.
Thank you so very much.
And I'm gonna let Vito tell a story, and then if you have any further comments.
Chair, first of all, thank you for allowing me to participate in this. And I want to tell the Jim DiMartini joke that I always thought was hilarious. And he used to say, when Jim DiMartini and I were on the board, he said, we're just one Italian away from getting the agenda printed in Italian. So we took a shot with Terry Tarazzo Withrotini, and he didn't want to change his name, but we tried. So we always used to talk about that. So I wanted to tell a quick story. I told it at the chamber a couple of weeks ago. Roberto Bulgari, stand up for 1 second. So this is a pretty unique, I think it's a unique story. I know I've told only a portion of it before, but his dad, Sandro, and my dad, Araldo, were neighbors in Italy. Little town, Cabella Liguria, it's Salvagnashi, but it's the province. And so they lived, literally, their windows were like right across the way. His dad was a little bit older. He was born in 26, my dad was born in 31. And made it through the Second World War. If you know that the war ended in northern Italy, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. They ended up going down to Genoa and worked there a couple of years, and they got on a boat together, the Vulcane, and its last voyage into New York City. They went through Ellis Island, took a train across the United States. Both ended up in Houston, and they just happened to pass away in the same year. So spent their entire life together. On John Fox Road and/or Fox Road, there are Kazazas, Bavas, Demergasso, Bulgaris, lots of Bulgaris, and Chiesas, literally within probably a square mile. They all ended up in the same place, all essentially from the same village. And you see that, it's not unique to Italians. This is just a story because this is a more personal story. But you see that among lots of ethnic groups. They find a better life somewhere, they send a message back, they call back, and people show up, and that's what creates this melting pot that we have that is just so phenomenal. And when you when you have a last name Parker Gomez and you're the president of the organization, it just shows you that it continues. It's a melting pot, right? And this is a good thing. And that's what makes America great. These people coming for a better life, they work like most people aren't even accustomed to. And that's why you see these businesses flourishing in many different avenues. And I think the chairman had talked about the impact. Today we're talking about Italian Americans, but there's just such an impact in this community. So it's just great. Thank you for letting me participate in this. Again, I'm proud just to be associated with you guys. And Roberto, he goes by Roberto, not Robert, Roberto Bulgari. And so thank you all for coming and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You want to join us for a
Thank
photo?
you.
You get inside.
Do you want to get on the other side? No, we're good. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
There is two.
Thank you.
Robert just let me know that there's the Asalis and the Sipaneris too.
Yeah, and then there's your towers.
That's right.
Don't forget the Nishi towers.
I know. You know how Jim is, he wouldn't forgive me. All right, next we have an update from the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Office, River Patrol, Sheriff Jeff Dirksey along with Sergeant Aaron Castillo. Sheriff, good morning, thanks for being here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Thanks for this opportunity to provide the update on our River Patrol. So at last year's budget, the board approved 2 additional deputies and the purchase of a new boat for to start River Patrol, which is something that we have not historically done in our county, but there's definitively a need for it. And the 2 new deputies, they fall under our off-road unit, which is supervised by Sergeant Aaron Costello, under the management of Chief Michael Parker, who's in the back. He's the Waterford chief and also oversees our reservoir unit. But this was added last year. It officially started, I think it was May 20th, if I'm not mistaken. That was our first official day, and it's been very successful. So we just wanted to give you guys the update on that and see if there are any questions. And so before I turn it over to Aaron, we have Michael Gamente, who is also of that Italian heritage, and Randon Kirkbride. They're the 2 deputies that are assigned to, specifically to the river, and they man the SS Freedom, which is the name of our boat, and the SS stands for Super Sexy Freedom, and you'll see why here in a minute. So, Sergeant Costello, take it away.
Oh, thank you. So I apologize. There's a lot of photographs here of the recoveries and water activities, so I'll try to go through them quickly. Most importantly, we'll just go over the boat and its capabilities. In terms of river rescue potential in the county, previously all vessels used by fire and or the sheriffs were rapid inflatable boats, which are basically inflatable boats with a solid bottom or hull and an outboard motor. Typically, fire does their rescue responses on these vessels, and we have one as a grant vessel. The problem about these is the outboard motors consume a lot of fuel, and they're pretty slow, and the capability and response is, I mean, it's effective, but not as quick. In terms of this vessel, what is brought to the table is a 34-gallon fuel tank and the fuel efficiency of a jet ski motor. We can run the entire length of the county probably twice without ever needing fuel, and the speed can get up to about 50 miles per hour. So in terms of responsiveness, this is the pinnacle of water vessel rescue capability. The hull, the aluminum hull, these are designed specifically for shallow depth operations. They're designed to skip over rocks and continue to go, and this thing has proven to be significantly more effective than our previous vessel. So I think this is the way of the future for our river operations, and if we could get fire into this realm as well, that would be probably ideal. Within the first week of using the boat, Memorial Weekend, Deputy Kirkbride and committee came across some Afghanistan immigrants who were out on the river on a Big 5 inflatable raft, and they had gone over with no life vests, and they were drowning. They actually came across them and were able to rescue them. They were very grateful, and they sent a thank you letter. But just something we come across. They've had at least 5 rescues since they've been on the water. I think they've prevented rescues just by their mere presence. Most of their summertime patrol has been on the Stanislaus on the weekends. And then during the week, we will go on to the Tuolumne and patrol in that function. So just a little bit about the boat. It's kind of a first of its kind in terms of this manufacturer specifically designing it for law enforcement. So it's kind of the flagship for the future. But a lot of agencies that come across it wish to have the same kind of vessel. So it's kind of a progressive step in enforcement. Between the Tuolumne and the Stanislaus is a high recreational river. Since the COVID kind of era, the recreation on the water has been very volatile in terms of fluctuation in crowds. We have a lot of out-of-county people. So the Stanislaus is where we get most of our rescues and most of our issues. The Tuolumne is where we have a lot of abandoned vessels with the flooding, and then people who don't want to pay their fees, they'll just dump their boats. Well, it turns out the transients like to pick the boats up and live on them. So we've come across numerous vessels. This is what you're going to see from the Tuolumne. I think our count of abandoned or derelict vessels still to be recovered is about 20 plus west of 9th Street towards the west side of the county. As you can see, there's just a lot of the stuff we're coming across, a lot of the recoveries we're doing. This was actually being occupied. This on the left had a treehouse or a kid's play set built onto the boat, and there was someone in it when we removed it from the water. Just typical vessels and transient activity. So in terms of patrolling the Tuolumne, we come across this. With the flooding, rise and decline, we see this quite often. Obviously vehicles. In terms of recoveries, we can go over the numbers, but they've pulled several vehicles. In terms of the Stanislaus, obviously our more rapid, rough water. Same thing, we've had various recoveries, lost boats. The biggest issue we've had is 120 east of Oakdale on the Stanislaus. There's county codes that require no motorized vessels. So our biggest complaint has been residents complaining about jet skis and motorized activity. The jet skiers there, which you see on the top right, were stopped, and they have not come back since. So since we've been on the water, the illegal boating activities has pretty much stopped, with the exception of some fishermen. So that kind of turns our eye towards the recreation and the public crowd issues that we deal with. And as you can see, just the typical things we encounter on the river as a result of the recreation that's going on. This is a weekly occurrence in terms of trash and the crowds. And those are some of the rafters out there partying. In terms of our stats, rough overview. I'm not going to go into them too deep, but that's it. Any questions about our vessel or our program?
All right, thank you for your presentation. Any questions or comments? Buck?
No questions, just comments. I just wanted to thank the team for all the great work that they're doing. I've heard so many great comments from the community in Knights Ferry. There was a huge problem with the jet skis, criminal activity on the river, and you've just done a great job in subverting those activities. I don't hear hardly any complaints anymore coming into my office about illegal activity on the river on the Stanislaus. And I'm sure also on the Tuolumne. I didn't get many complaints from that area, but I haven't had any calls to my office whatsoever since the river patrols have started. I just want to thank the team for such a great job.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Sergeant, how far east do you go on the Tuolumne? Or where do you put in it, I guess?
Well, that's kind of the geographical challenges. There's very few. We put in a Basso, generally speaking. Okay. I know we can go up to probably all the way to the dam, the TID area there with the lower dam. It really has very few obstacles in terms of reach or response.
Okay.
On the Tuolumne, loading zones or boat ramps are pretty few and far between. So geographically, we have to pick. Usually Fox Grove or the Ceres Park.
Okay. Yeah, I think this year, because there's more water flow, Obviously, it was a more dangerous condition on any river, but I saw more people. I'm east, I have some property east, and there's more people kayaking because there's some flow. Normally in the summertime, there's no flow on the river. On the Tuolumne, there always is on the Stanislaus. That's why it's a more recreational area. But it was good to see, because I think that people who are going down the river and enjoying, that's what it's there for. And they actually stop some of the bad things that occur. So appreciate all you do,
Yeah.
Sergeant.
In terms of the Tuolumne, we've also seen a high number of jet skis going to Fox Grove, and there's no county codes regulating the jet skis. So that activity may obviously go higher, and then obviously problems will come with that in terms of
So-
safety.
Who's the one that mandates no jet skis east of, on the Stanislaus?
Stanislaus County Code.
Stanislaus County Code. Interesting, okay.
Yeah. In terms of public interaction, this has received more praise from the public and interest. Obviously, the term super sexy, it just attracts crowds. There is a small element that just don't like law enforcement, and we tend to get the cops theme sung at us or the middle finger quite often, but it's just part of the job, so.
Great. Deputy Kirkbride and Deputy Gamenti, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to public comment. Public comment is a time for those in attendance to speak on items not related to the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Direct all comments towards the dais, and so that it's fair for every speaker, keep your comments to the 5-minute time limit. I do have a couple comment cards, and the first is from Mr. Miguel Donoso. Mr. Donoso, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regard to the diversity celebration in employment or equal employment opportunity, I continue to request to that area, not too many really in the top of the administration of this county are minorities, especially Hispanic or Mexican American descent. I'm talking about the office of the council, I'm talking about the social service department, mental health department, the different departments, the key departments. I don't see no Mexican American or Latino descent in that position. And you're talking about power, that's where the power is. In the chief office, there's only one, is Mr. Ruben Imperial, and then the rest are positioned not in the level of the administration, special for the funds that we receive from the federal and state funds, and not really being in up-to-date compliant with the percentage of Mexican American community, almost 50%. So the workforce is almost very close. So I'm questioning that. But the second part, Mr. Chairman, is I'm going to present to you a complaint that we are doing to ask for the investigation in regard to the conflict of interest. And finally, we put a package together to questioning really what is the conflict of interest in this county. And the county, not only the Board of Supervisors, but the chief office, the different activity that was happening for the last 2 years, and especially the opportunity of Stanislaus County, they control almost every contract in regard to economic development. And that person is Mr. David White, received very close to $2 million in different funds from local, from the chief office, and the same time from the different ARPA funding and the care funds and the county funds. But at the same time, many of his members are members of the different committees in regard to the workforce development, the comprehensive economic development committee. In one time I addressed that, and the council said no, that we don't have so much conflict of interest because it's only a committee. But under the package, you can see the county has to have conflict of interest in every committee. At the same time, every member, the staff, or any member of the different communities, like the Stanislaus Community Foundation, receive $1.3 million from ARPA, and yet in the board is only one Mexican American represented. In the same time, one of the members have a conflict of interest. In the same time, as member of the opportunity, Stanislaus, the committee have even two mayors, one from this Modesto and the other one from the city to Loc. At the same time, set the people in the comprehensive economic development. In the same time, make contract with Mr. David White. So I'm asking to the Department of the Auditor and Controller to see really is conflict of interest or not. At the same time, give that information to the board supervisor to see what really is going to happen. And not only that, but we're going to send this week this information to the Department of Labor, the Department of Justice, and the Treasury Department in regard to really the contracts that the county have in the Economic Development Administration in Seattle. They have a lot of money given to Mr. David White and his organization, and yet you have a lot of conflict of interest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Donoso. That's a beautiful shirt, by the way. I really like it.
Thank you, sir.
You got good style. All right, next we got Susan Beasley. Miss Beasley, good morning.
Guten Morgen, as my family in Germany would say. And what would we say in Italia, Vito? Buongiorno. And our French friends would say, bonjour, bonjour, comment allez-vous? Buenos días, ¿qué tal están? No matter how we say it, we're all going to be friends on Saturday, October 7, as we greet each other and celebrate the 30th anniversary of the International Heritage Festival over in Modesto's beautiful Greseda Park. And I'm here to extend an invitation to everyone who is here throughout Stanislaus County to join us as we celebrate international heritage and also celebrate our shared American heritage, which that is what brings us all together. And what beautiful ceremonies we had today as you presented Italian Heritage Month, and we're celebrating, I think in the last meeting there was recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. So perfect timing. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we have going is traveling around the world. We have a special appearance by Betsy Ross. That is made possible through time travel. That is how she's getting here. We're going to be celebrating a beautiful, colorful parade of flags. Kicks off with an 11 a.m. opening ceremony. We have a wonderful young lady, Katie Overton from Opera Modesto, who will sing our national anthem. We also have a special visitor who's coming from the San Francisco office, I believe it's of Commerce or Tourism, from Taiwan, who will be joining us. And we have just about every country we could think of: France, China, Taiwan, of course, our sister cities. Dances from Mexico, Egypt, Cambodia, and India. We will have a dance demonstration from Scandinavia. We'll have some Puerto Rican delights and Italian pastries for you. Ireland and Scotland will be there. Just a fabulous time. And kicking off also as part of that 11 a.m. opening ceremony, the Johansson Jazz Combo, the Civil Air Patrol, and we want to say thank you to our Modesto High volunteers for helping us with all the crafts that we will have for the children. So if you want to find your inner child, be sure to come join us. And it's events such as the International Heritage Festival that serve to enrich the quality of life for all of us in our community. So we invite you to come join us. We also want to say thank you to our sponsors. We're working in partnership with the City of Modesto Parks and Recreation Department. So I must say that we're excited and a little bit nervous to be back at Greseda Park. And we want to make sure that folks understand it's a year of rebuilding and reconnecting. Sadly, some of our groups that we traditionally worked with, they've disbanded because of the COVID pandemic. They're no longer around. Some of our friends have passed away, and some of them have moved out of the area. So really, it's about reconnecting and rebuilding. So we ask your grace and patience as we, and you know, we're excited to be back, but just some grace and patience with us because we'll be back in a very large venue. We're excited, and we'll make it the best that we can. And keep in mind, we're all volunteers working for the betterment of our community. I also want to say thank you to the Gallo Winery, Mr. and Mrs. Malagon, and our radio sponsors at the River. They've been with us for many, many years. So again, I hope to see all of you out there. Come join us. Bring your families, your children, grandchildren, your neighbors. Please invite everyone to come join us on Saturday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that is all the comment cards that I have. Are there any other members of the public who wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment period and move on to the consent calendar. Do any members have wish to comment on any consent calendar items?
I do,
Vito.
just on A5, but I just want to comment on it, and so I don't want to pull it. If
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'll
we
just
could-
comment right now.
Sure.
So I just wanted everyone to be aware that we're moving Lupe Aguilera, who serves currently at the District 1 seat for the Commission on Aging. She moved to Turlock, so we're doing a swap. Oh, no? Did I say that wrong?
No, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
I just
Moved
need
out.
to lose her.
Yes, and she's been such a wonderful person. We're doing a swap and putting her on. I know I was advertising for that position and had some applications, but that was the reason. And so I just wanted the public to know that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on any items? Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Do any members of the public wish to comment on any consent calendar items? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for further action.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, motion by Supervisor Condit, a second by Supervisor Chiesa. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes somewhat unanimously 4-0-1. All right, moving on to public hearings. We have a presentation regarding the fire protection facilities fee for the Houston Fire Protection District. And we have Mr. Patrick Kavanaugh and a Houston Fire representative.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Chair Condit, Chair Condit, members of the board, CEO Hayes, County Council Bose. I'm Patrick Kavanaugh. I'm Senior Management Consultant in the county's Chief Executive Office. I'm joined today by representatives of the Houston Fire District, Board Member Tony Dowd, who's here in the audience, and joining me at the desk is their consultant, Joe Colgan. This morning, we'll be discussing the Houston Fire Protection District Impact Fee Study. And just to kind of frame the conversation, just wanted to state that this is a fee study schedule is consistent with the established procedural history in Title 24 of the Stanislaus County Code. Consistent with past practice, this study was presented to the Stanislaus County Public Facility Fees Committee at its May 18th meeting. At the meeting, the committee recommended approval of the study, and pursuant to Government Code and Title 24 of the county's code, fire impact fees require Board of Supervisors approval. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Joe, who will take you through the study.
Thank you, Patrick. Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, good morning. My name is Joe Colgan. I'm representing NBS, and we're the consultants for the Houston Fire Protection District on this impact fee study. I just got a few quick slides to, I know you had a chance to see the report, so I'll just go through this quickly and give everybody a little bit of an orientation on how we prepared this study. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is that there were some recent changes to the Mitigation Fee Act which changed the requirements for impact fee studies in California. There are three key things that we had to pay attention to in this study that frankly changed the way we do things a little bit. First of all, the new amendment to the law says that impact fees must be based on the existing level of service unless a higher level of service can be justified. So in this case, we did use the existing level of service as the basis for the impact fee calculations. The law also says that new residential impact fees must be proportional to the square footage of the unit instead of being charged by unit type, that is single family or multifamily development types, which is the way it's been done pretty much since we've been doing impact fees in California. And then the third item is that agencies in large counties, when they do impact fees, large counties being any with a population of over 250,000, must adopt a capital improvement plan as part of an impact fee study. So one of the key things that we do in an impact fee study is we have to figure out how to measure the impact of a development on the need for the facilities that will be paid for by the fees. So in this case, we've measured that impact using the number of calls for service per unit per year generated by each type of development defined in the impact fee study. And to do that, we analyzed a large sample of approximately 50% of all of the Houston FPD calls for service for a one-year period to determine the average number of calls per unit per year generated by each development type defined in the study. So converting that into numbers, you can see here that the number of calls for service per year in 2022 is 935. We define the existing level of service in terms of the asset costs per call. And so that comes out using the replacement value of the district's existing assets, meaning buildings, apparatus, vehicles, and equipment. We come out with a cost per call of $8,037.40. We did exclude agricultural properties or calls to agricultural properties from that calculation because we're assuming that there will be no new ag land in the district, and so the impact fees would not apply in that case. So just to give you an idea of the factors that result from that analysis of the calls for service per unit per year, you can see in this table the number of calls for each type of development. As you can see, the residential development categories are defined in terms of square footage, whereas in the past we would have normally done those as single family, multifamily, and in some cases maybe mobile homes. We have added a senior assisted living category in this study to the list of proposed fees because approximately 25% of all the district's calls for service are to one assisted living community in the city of Houston. So let's go on to the next slide. So these, once we take that average cost per call, multiply it by those calls per unit factors, this is what we end up with in terms of the impact fees per unit, which we're recommending to you. And then if we can compare that to the existing fees in the next slide. So these are the existing impact fees. Now, actually, the existing fees are stated in terms of flat fee per square foot. And so in order to compare those with the proposed fees, we've converted those existing fees into fees per unit in this case, and that requires some assumptions about what would be the typical square footage of a unit within each of those residential categories. So, there's a little bit of flexibility there, but for the others, the commercial and industrial fees are still stated in terms of square footage because that's the way that the proposed fees are also stated. And so finally, the difference between the existing and proposed fees is shown here, and as you can see, they mostly increase, except for industrial, which is actually considerably smaller than the existing fee. And that would apply, I think, mostly in the district to processing facilities, that sort of thing. So that's really my summary of the study, and I'd be happy to answer questions once Patrick runs through his final summary.
Yes, so staff has 3 recommendations for the board this morning. First is to conduct a public hearing to adopt fire protection facility fees for the Houston Fire Protection District pursuant to Title 24 of the Stanislaus County Code. Second, approve and adopt the findings set forth in the Public Development Impact Fee Study and in this item, and as required by Section 66001 of the California Government Code. And finally, authorize imposing the fire protection facility fees set forth in the fee study and this item on all building permits that are issued in the Houston Fire Protection District after December 2nd, 2023, and the fee amount that is in the effect at the time the permit is issued. And with that, if the board has any questions or comments.
I think we do. Terry?
Perfect. Thanks, Chance. Just, Joe, thank you very much. Patrick, I'm just curious how this, we had a few months back, and I was trying to pull it up and I couldn't find it here. Can't get my internet to work. But what Salida, remember Salida was here a couple months ago, same thing, coming up with, they had a formula, and I think it was, they did it a completely different way, a different consultant. Joey didn't do it for them. I just want, and we all know our volunteer agencies are in trouble and need help. There's no question about it. at least, like I said, out in our rural areas, our volunteers departments, mostly volunteer departments. So it'd be great if there was some uniformity here. If we had across the county, all of us using the same method for impact fees, rather than this, it's everybody, every man for themselves, basically, coming up with their different. Anyway, just throwing that out there for what it's worth, Joe. And I don't know, you're involved in this and do this often. Is that what you find, that every agency seems to be coming up with different methods or using the same method, or anyway, straighten me out here.
We and I think most of the consultants that we are aware of tend to use this type of method, either calls for service or service population as the basis for the fees. I did see the Salida study, and I know I think they did a flat square foot fee, which is, I'm not saying it's not a valid way to go. That's not something that we've done, and I would tend to think that that's less common than the way we've done this study.
And this is Buck's area, it's not mine, but I just want to throw that out there.
I think at the last meeting with Salida, one of my questions was specifically how many different options are there for the study? And if I remember correctly, which I'm probably not, I think the answer was there were 3 different methods of determining that. Would that be your?
Yeah, well, yes, in general, we tended to find 3 different approaches you can use for impact fees. One that's based, what we call a plan-based approach, which is based on a certain increment of development, what the mix of future development will be and what facilities are needed to serve that new development. Now, because of the change in the law, I don't think that applies so much anymore. And then another one is a capacity-based fee, which mostly applies to water and sewer facilities, but can be used for other types of things. And what we've done here, and what I think the law more or less requires now, is what we call a standard-based fee, where there's a certain standard which the existing level of service establishes that standard, and then we base the fee on that.
And I think the question was how many are recognized, and there was 3.
So I think, but maybe I should clarify one thing. The Salida study, I think, is probably done using a standard-based approach, but the unit of measure was different.
So does Houston have to adopt this fee since it's the incorporated and the unincorporated area, the district? They do? Okay. Has that gone before the city of Houston? It has not yet. These are always interesting because when they come before us, there's different methodologies, and I think I actually like this way because they list out the requirements of engine requirements, the $3-point-some million, and then you back into that number by looking at new development and how it can be funded based on call volume, and so it seems pretty fair, and I don't ever want to get in the way of volunteer departments. I'm a homer for them and just the work they've done. And Tony's been out when my dad was sick. He personally came out 2 or 3 times, and for $75. I think that's what we pay. My parents pay at their house. So it's a bargain. It's actually too much of a bargain. I know this has nothing to do with your ongoing costs. This has to do with new development paying their way. But I just appreciate everything. I'm very supportive of this and the methodology you used.
Any other questions? All right, we will go ahead and gavel out for public comment. So do any members of the public wish to comment on this hearing? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and I will close public comment period and bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion for the 3 staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Chiesa, a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes 4-0-1. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to correspondence.
This board has received the correspondence and claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Board of Supervisor reports. Do any Board of Supervisors have anything to report?
Because it was, we were talking about the county's diversity, I just wanted to acknowledge that Dia de los Muertos community celebration on the 28th of this month is going to be held at Fairview Park, which is out at Whitmore and Tucson. But it just made me think about that when I heard about it. And I know that the parks will be sharing that out in the future.
Terry?
Just real quick, I just want to recognize, and we all remember her from being here, Terry Walker Dampier. And I attended her funeral on Saturday, and she was just a trooper, just a good human being that came to my office a couple different times, represented the UDW, and just like I said, just a good human being, and it was just apparent from her services just how many people loved her, and I know she's in God's hands at this point, and anyway, we're gonna miss her, but she was it was a great ceremony this Saturday. So
Thank you, Terry. Yes, she will be missed. Buck?
Yeah, just got to sit down with Doris Foster, Workforce Development, had a great meeting, learned a lot. Just wanted to thank her for her time, for sitting down with me and explaining their processes.
Okay, thank you, Buck. And we do have Gavin Klein from Congressman Duarte's office here today, and he's going to give us an update on what's going on. And if we've been following anything, a lot of excitement's been going on in D.C.
It has. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, county staff, community. Thank you, Gavin Klein, Congressman Duarte's office. Just want to give you all a quick update of what's going on in the past, and we are remaining open for another 45 days, so the federal agencies are keeping the funding going, as well as our district here. In District 13, we're a working class district, so this would be very detrimental to our district. Congressman Duarte has been hard at work at the nation's capital to advocate for California's congressional 13 districts priorities, as well as preventing the government shutdown. Congressman Duarte has voted to fund the federal government for an additional 45 days, and this was a bipartisan continuing resolution that will prevent a government shutdown, providing us with adequate time to pass budget bills for the upcoming fiscal year. Last week, we showed the American public that we can come together for the well-being of our nation. However, it is important to recognize this is a short-term funding measure and not a long-term solution. In the next 45 days, Congressman Duarte is committed to working tirelessly to pass fiscal responsibility budget bills, as well as to prevent a shutdown from our district. So thank you all for your time. As always, if there's any questions or concerns, always feel free to reach out to myself or our office.
Thank you, Gavin, for being here. We appreciate it. All right, Legislative Fiscal Management Report, CEO Hayes.
Okay, so I think you just heard the federal update, and I'm going to pass. I don't have anything on the state for today. Thank you.
Okay, and no closed session today, which is unusual. Awesome, but I do want to thank Deputy Gingrich, as usual, for looking over us, and we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:48.